All right, I want to document a sex offender by name, Misael Lopez. This is, again, the demon's son, Julia Alvarez Lopez. You've already witnessed the viciousness of this entity. You've also witnessed the sexual violence of the entity. And so this is, again, the sex offender engages in more sexual violence, not only because it's a demented psychopath and it reasons in its mind to engage in more criminal activity, more sexual violence, more criminal surveillance, all right, and psychologically tormenting criminal conduct, because it's hostile as you enforce your rights about the fact that you shouldn't be stalking me. Okay, you shouldn't be engaging what is surveillance in your demonic activity while you are aware of the fact, keeping me under surveillance while I'm physically indisposed. So I want to document a sex offender by name. I've already documented this whole property as a sex offender, and then I'm going to individualize that prosecution. But I'm going to call out the sex offender right now that's acting on behalf of all of them. Misael Lopez of 1806, apartment number 4, directly under me. So I want to be clear, the entity is engaging what is amplification. While they know I'm taking off my zippers, I'm getting ready to take my clothes off, walking into my restroom to use the bathroom, to engage in what is personal, private activity. All of the entity that's engaged in surveillance, they love to engage in surveilling me while they're keeping me under surveillance under those circumstances. These are violent sex offenders. Okay, the same ones that are huddling around in a helicopter, they're sitting around together. And that's a sex offender, by the way. That's predatory. That's very perverted. These people have custody of minor children. This is why you're permeating the lives of these sex offenders, engaging in this state surveillance as an entity. And then acting with specific knowledge of what you're doing as you're doing it, engaging in the elements. Remember what the demon possessed are doing and what they know as they're doing it. Okay, the entity is acting through Misael, who's underneath. Okay, walking up the stairs does not create any eruption, any earthquake in my bathroom. Okay, doing so while I'm literally preparing to take my clothes off, and all the entity is aware of that. They are also monitoring documentation. So the sex offender intends to sexually violate and offend you while they are monitoring you, while they are being, in fact, the sex offender. So I want to make sure that I empower one who is subject to any sort of sexual violence of this nature. It has no bearing on you whatsoever. That sex offender is entirely responsible for that demented and perverted mind state and purpose. Okay, there's nothing for you to be ashamed of. There's nothing for you to be embarrassed about. There's absolutely nothing for you to feel awkward for, because you're surrounded by sex offenders, or you're being targeted by a sex offender, okay? Or somebody that is, in other words, violating your person, violating your ordinary sensibilities, okay? Any reasonable person would be offended by that. And so I want to, first of all, make that statement. And this is what is psychotic about these sex offenders who are engaging in what are the elements of monitoring, sensational activity, and second of all, there's nothing other than the criminal monitoring system that's underway. That's why the light switch is over my apartment right now. That's why you know, and how you know, that Misael is a group stalker with real-time knowledge of the fact that I am disrobing in my private space. He is stalking in the path underneath on the second floor, which does not create any sensational activity while I'm entering into my bathroom and taking off my clothes. This is monitoring, and it's sexually motivated monitoring. That's a sex offender going by the name, again, Misael Lopez. Him and his mother and his sister are documented group stalkers, which is a violent sex offense, and they're all going to federal prison. And I just want to make sure that I specifically document that predatory criminal conduct with regard to what is the intent of the entity, which intends to violate, it intends to further terrorize, it intends to further psychologically torture, and it intends to engage in more surveillance and criminal conduct to terrorize you, while they are also monitoring your documentation. And this is speaking to the emergency that exists for so long as the target individual remains subject to this criminal system. This is what substantiates federal raids. This is what substantiates federal prison. Okay? This is what substantiates deportation. Okay? This is what substantiates draining the pockets and publishing you as the sex offending terrorist that you are, which is going to be a list maintained by the Department of Justice to make sure that you cannot and you will never again maintain any employment or place of residence outside of the knowledge of the public, who have a right to know where you are and what you intend to do with regard to living and working. This is what substantiates it. And I want to be clear, that was 1806. Number 4, Julia Alvarez de Lopez household. They're a documented group stalker. That entire household's devoted to federal group stalking and monitoring, and for that they're going to federal prison. And this is sexual violence that the entity is engaging on as an entity. You've already seen the engineer light. Well, Joan Kim is group stalking, a sex offender, and you're looking at her shadows that are on both sides of her. That's impossible light activity. That's not light that's occurring naturally through any ordinary lamp. This is an engineered environment, and these are demons engaging in surveillance. The light source is over my apartment building, directly over me at my apartment building. And the entity is surrounded with engineered light, while that earthquake-like conduct is while he's walking on the staircase underneath me, with simultaneity to my removing my clothing. All of this is intentional. And that's revealing the mind state of a sex offender, by the way. Misael Lopez is going to federal prison, and he engaged in a sex offense in concert and on behalf of the state. The men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department, which represent the state, are filled with demon-possessed sex offenders. And I'm not being hyperbolic when I said that before. And this criminal conduct is exactly what is the proof of that. They're doing it on behalf of the state that's stuck in a relevant position in a helicopter, and they do so with, oh, wait, she's taking her clothes off, now engage it. That's what the sex offender is doing, okay? Those is the demented and sexually predatory mind state of the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department, and that is the affect of the demon possession that this entity is suffering from while they are serving Satan and engaging in what is this obsessive system of federal group stalking and monitoring. Okay, it is currently 1:30 p.m., and this is P.O.C.